Good evening. Welcome to this session of AFPI, Continuing Professional Development Group. This is about the current, right? In fact, what is happening right now in India with the COVID-19, maybe we can call it COVID-20, 20.1, 20.2, 20.3, because there are double mutants and so many variants that we don't know. Basically, we are going to discuss about the challenges and options. These two presentations by Dr. V. Srinivas from Hyderabad and Dr. Mugdha Singh, who is an AFPI member who has come to Canada, migrated to Canada, and is in applying for residencies, etc. So she has done some literature search and experiences, so that will join. And so we said we might as well have a town hall meeting of the family physicians. So with that, I hand over to Dr. Srinivas. I'll get slides on and let me see.
Good evening, everybody. I first thank Dr. Kamlesh for giving me this opportunity. Today's topic is COVID-19 and variants, challenges and options. I would like to share my experiences. Just I will briefly tell about 3 cases and what are the challenges, and it means the new wave, the second wave is different when compared to the first wave in several ways. First of all, the spreading of the infection is very fast. The rate of increase of the cases is significantly very high. And moreover, the younger adults, especially in the age group of 30s, we are seeing more and more patients in this age group, and the severity of the disease is also more. And for the first time, children are being seen symptomatic. During the first wave, the children were asymptomatic. Mostly, they were asymptomatic. Now, they became symptomatic, and the severity of the disease in children also has grown considerably. And the hyperinflammatory syndrome or the lung involvement is, we are seeing it at an earlier stage. On 3rd day, 4th day itself, we are seeing the infiltrates in the HRCT chest and the inflammatory markers being raised. This is one more important feature. And the patients are needing more high flow oxygen. The oxygen requirement is very high, with pumping around 90 liters per minute. Similarly, the next slide, sir. And patients are testing negative, but showing symptoms of it. Repeat test after 48 hours, they are positive. And the mutant coronavirus is bringing out unusual symptoms. And healthcare system is stretched the most. More shortage of beds, oxygen supply, medicine side, and even spaces in morgues and cremation grounds. Case numbers and deaths have begun to spike exponentially. So this is the challenge we are facing for the defeat of the pandemic. That is the utmost challenge. And we have to balance between the lives and livelihood. There are several options are there. The last option is lockdown, because what we have experienced in the first wave, we have seen that an abrupt starting of a lockdown without considering various aspects, the people will suffer a lot. That's what we have seen in the past. And now wisdom has prevailed. Now the general consensus is that the lockdown should be the last resort. Meanwhile, different levels of restrictions may be imposed, except that of full or total lockdown. That is how we are viewing the second wave. And there are very many options are there, especially the first option is the accelerated vaccination drive. That is very important. We, the family physicians, every one of us, we are for the past 3 months, we are busy in counseling the patients. We are telling again and again the importance of the vaccine. Take the vaccine. And the questions for which vaccine we should take. What are the adverse effects? What are the side effects? How, if at all I got some fever, how it will reduce? So we are being faced with so many questions from our patients, and we are continuously answering them. So for combating the pandemic, the key is the accelerated vaccination drive. That is very important, and ramp up the vaccinations. At the time now, we are facing a shortage of the vaccines. The authorities are trying hard to increase the production of the vaccines. So the ramp up of the vaccines is important, and including all the age groups above 18 years should be prioritized, not the elderly or healthcare or frontline workers. All the adults, irrespective of their provision, they should be given the vaccine. Unless the vaccine is given to the majority of the population, we cannot combat the pandemic. We cannot overcome the pandemic. That's very important. And in this aspect, we, the family physicians, have a greater role in educating the masses, educating our patients. And the second thing is regarding the SMS, that is the COVID appropriate behavior. The sanitization, social distancing, and wearing mask. That's what we have to advocate the public advocacy campaign on mask wearing and safe behavior. And we all know from our experiences how limitations are there in the hospital-centric patient care, hospital-centric patient approach. It has very limited role. During the last year, from May itself, from the June first week itself, everyone was searching for the family physicians. And all the family physicians are the primary care physicians. They were busy attending the calls of the patients. So major part of the patient healthcare visits were done by the primary care physicians. We attended the 2/3 of the calls. The 2/3 of the healthcare visits are being seen by the family physicians. And this time, when there is a big surge of the cases, a major responsibility lies upon us, that we ourselves have to come forward, and we have to see the patients, we have to guide them, we have to attend their emergencies, and we have to see that fewer and fewer hospitalizations are made. And this is what the family physicians have a role now, especially the increased role of the family physicians. Not only that, not only a clinical aspect, seeing the patients, writing the prescriptions, treating them. Not only that, for public health measures, also we should take the responsibility. If the community is unhealthy, how can you expect your patient to be healthy? So we have to take care of the sanitization, sanitary aspect. We have to take care of the safe drinking water. All those measures, public health measures, at least 1/4 or 1/5 of the work of the family physician should be catered to attending the public health measures. We have to see that public health measures are being taken up. This concept is lacking in our healthcare system. What the primary care physician should do is not simply seeing 1 or 2 patients and just be giving the prescription. It doesn't end there. We have to take the responsibility of public health also. We have to see that all the measures, we have to develop the contacts with the local authorities, municipal authorities, the communities, NGOs. All the responsibility should be taken by the family physicians, and see that the effective, efficient, and equitable healthcare is given to all. In this aspect, the role of the family physicians is becoming, the role of primary care physicians is becoming bigger and bigger. And so the options, there are various options. Some has to be taken up by the administrations. Some has to be taken up by the policymakers, government authorities. At the individual level, at the community level, the family physicians have a greater role. And I hope that we all fulfill that role successfully during this pandemic. And our main goal is to defeat the pandemic. The main goal is to break the chain of transmission. That should be the main. And vaccination is an important tool, and during the process of which we can play a very great role. So coming to the case scenarios, I would like to take just 3 cases which I encountered in the last 1 month period. The first case is a 64-year lady patient. She, with a past history of chronic hypertension, chronic type 2 diabetes, on insulins. She was taking insulin for the past 20 years, and she had developed fever for 4 days. And she was taking azithromycin and paracetamol, the fever hasn't subsided. At that time, they consulted me, and taking into account of her age and the comorbidities, I advised RT-PCR, and it came positive. Immediately, I advised her to undergo the HRCT chest, and HRCT chest, first it was orally reported as 6/25. And after seeing the video, I had a doubt, and I thought that the CCT severity score is more. So I asked the radiologist to repeat the report and give us the written report. And it came out to be, it is 11/25. I will play the video. The classical features, you can see that ground glass, the whitish part. So you can play it, sir. All the whitish are ground glass opacities. That is the cotton, cloudy, the rounded lesions. Just okay, sir. Just a 1-minute video. If we go through it, we can see the ground glass opacities, and they are peripheral, multifocal, they are rounded, and bilateral. This is the typical of COVID pneumonia. It has been given because she is RT-PCR. It was given as CT severity score was given as 11/25. So at this juncture, as more and more cases are coming up, the workload on the radiologists, the workload on the physicians, the workload on the critical care doctors, intensivists, the load is very high, and the reporting is hazardous, and it's not totally comprehensive. So we, the family physicians, we should be proficient in reading the HRCT, and especially the video. If you see 5 or 6 videos, you can come to an understanding easily. We can just let us, and moreover, we have to correlate with the clinical features also. As you know, there is the CORADS 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is RT-PCR positive. The CORADS 5 is typical of COVID pneumonia, and 4 is high suspicion. These CORADS is not the severity, but it is the level of suspicion for the pulmonary involvement in the COVID. But the CT severity, we can measure, the scale is different. As right lung is having 3 lobes, left lung is having 2 lobes. Each lobe is given 1 to 5 scores. Just another video. Sir, you can play it, sir. This is a video of 58-year-old male patient. The score, CT severity score is 9. You can play it, sir. You can see these whitish lesions. There are so many lesions are there, and the patient has accepted my advice. Patient has been admitted. She has given remdesivir, anticoagulants, steroids, and she became very well. She has been discharged. And the take-home message from the first from the first case is based on the clinical features, patient has been classified as moderate disease with COVID pneumonia. Prompt admission and treatment prevented further complications and morbidity. So the take-home message second is family physicians should be proficient in reading the HRCT chest. And coming to the second case, sir, I would like to present the second case. This is a overview, yes. And I could not, because due to the shortage of time, I am not, let us go to the second case directly.
Yeah.
This part I'm skipping, sir. The second case is a 66-year-old gentleman. He developed fever for the last 4 days. And he was advised RT-PCR, it became positive. He's a known case of chronic hypertension, achalasia cardia, and bilateral renal calculi. So in view of the comorbidities, I advised RT-PCR, it came positive, and the HRCT and the inflammatory markers were done. The inflammatory markers, the CRP has elevated. It was almost 18.2, and the D-dimer was above 1,000. It was 1,100 plus. So HRCT was 7, and CT severity score was given as 7/25. And cohorts, anyhow, it is cohort 6 because it's RT-PCR is positive. I advised admission, and the patient hasn't accepted my advice, and he was very confident that he will improve within 2 days. He was so confident, and he hasn't accepted my decision. But on the 6th day, he developed breathlessness and even minimal exertion, and he could not take only few steps. At that time, he was very angry. The entire family became very anxious, and they had got admitted in a big corporate hospital of their choice, and he was treated for 5 days. At the 5 days, and he was discharged. The same treatment, because the drugs are limited. The remdesivir and methylprednisolone and anticoagulants were given, and the supportive treatment was given. He has improved. After the discharge, in the discharge summary, what was the instructions were: review after 1 week in the fever clinic with the inflammatory markers, review after 15 days with RT-PCR. They are advising again RT-PCR, and they asked for review after 1 month with the primary consultant. So after 1 week, he has underwent the inflammatory markers. They can reduce considerably, and patient was okay. And he tried to contact the fever clinic, but he could not contact. But the sisters there, they told that you continue the same treatment. And overall, the DEXA was given for about 15 days in this case. And for the first 5 days to 5 to 7 days, he was okay. But in the next second week, he became drowsy, and he became lethargic, and the generalized weakness was severe. And even drooling of the saliva, the family members were complaining. And at that time, again, they contacted me. In spite of the admission, in spite of taking improvement, and the patient has deteriorating. What to do next? When I went to the discharge summary, I discussed with the patient's attenders, and there was no report of the blood sugars anywhere. Generally, the steroids were given for 10 days. It was general guideline, either methylprednisolone or dexamethasone. Altogether, they should be given for 10 days. But in this case, almost 20 days, or about 20 days, it was prescribed. And I was doubtful, and I would like to check his sugars. I asked the patient attendants to get the sugars checked, and the sugars came to be 600 plus. So that was the main problem. And in the discharge summary, it was not at all mentioned to monitor the sugars. The steroids were liberally prescribed, but there is no concomitant monitoring of the sugars. The simultaneous sugar should be monitored. That was totally neglected. And immediately I asked the patient, I advised Jalumet, but I was not confident that it will control the sugars because sugars were very high. I advised admission in a hospital, and he went to another hospital because he lost the confidence in that hospital, that big corporate hospitals, where he initially got admitted and treated. And the one nearby hospital, he was admitted under a physician, and with insulin, he has improved. And he, at that time, he had some seizure-like activity. He is being seen by a neurophysician. EEG was done. MRI brain was done. MRI brain has shown that chronic frontal infarcts were present, and age-related cerebral atrophic changes were there. There were no acute infarcts. But the neurophysician has prescribed Bridgilom, that is an anti-epileptic drug, for 3 months. But the patient has, luckily, he has improved the drowsiness. He overcame the drowsiness. He became very conscious, coherent, and he was very happy now. So the take-home message in this case is, in spite of being admitted and treated in a tertiary care hospital, the role of the family physician is immense at every step and follow-up. And the second aspect is, when steroids are given for a long time, the sugars have to be monitored and treated meticulously, very closely. In our case, this has been totally missed by the tertiary care physicians. Even a two-day delay in admission of a COVID patient with comorbidities and increased inflammatory markers can be detrimental. This is the take-home message of the second case. And the third case, coming to the third case.
Thank you very much, Dr. Srinivas. We are running a little bit late, and I would like to have the participants' discussion too. So we will have Dr. Mugda's presentation, and then if we have the time, we'll take up the third case, okay?
So only the last case, the last.
Can we do that quickly, please?
Yes. The third case, I'm skipping it, sir. The fourth one is, we should have RT-PCR. We are seeing so many cases. RT-PCR is negative, but the clinical features are suggestive of COVID. And if HRCT is done, it is showing cohorts 5, and inflammatory markers are high. So in such cases, whether to treat this case as a COVID or not. So the concept is, it is a COVID-like syndrome. So syndromic approach also we should develop, and few state governments have accepted this guideline. We should have a syndromic approach. This is a COVID-19 like syndrome or COVID-19 probable case when RT-PCR is negative and the clinical features are suggestive of COVID, inflammatory markers are elevated, and the radiological evidence of the disease is there, then we have to treat it as a confirmed case of COVID, and we have to treat it to reduce the morbidity and to reduce the infection. We should have to develop this syndromic approach. That is also I would like to stress more, sir. Thank you very much.